Hello, all you Horgons out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
So they're statues?
Yeah, statues gotta listen to podcasts.
I don't know that that's accurate.
Statues are people too.
It's also
Right.
not accurate.
And Happy New Year. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello's Data.
Yo!
Today we're going to recap and discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 5, Episode 7, Let He Who Is Without Sin. Alternate title, Rise Us Sirius.
I mean, yeah, that pretty much covers it.
It helps if you say it in the Scooby-Doo voice. Like, Rise Us Sirius, Raggy. And this time, the ellipsis actually is in the title.
Yeah.
Unlike Nor the Battle to the Strong, where Paramount Plus just put one in the title for some reason.
So wait, who's Scooby-Doo in this episode?
I guess it has to be... Quark?
Okay, no, I can see it.
Just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine, we will attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode, but proceed at your own risk. Let He Who Is Without Sin originally aired November 11th, so Veterans Day, 1996. It was written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe and Ira Stephen Bear in the rare switcheroo, and directed by Renee Auberjonois.
And so, just to start us off on the right foot here, Robert Hewitt Wolfe is quoted as saying that of all the episodes that he co-wrote with Ira Stephen Bear, this one is his least favorite. Oh,
good. I was kind of wondering, like, did Ira Stephen Bear put his name first on purpose or something? But
I like this idea that Robert Hewitt Wolfe's like, maybe if your name's first, then nobody will notice that I'm in there.
Sarah Lofton is not in this episode that I noticed.
Nope. Neither is Nana Visitor.
Oh my goodness. She off having a baby?
Yep.
Congratulations. 27 years ago. Just think that baby is now 27 years old.
Yeah, did we talk about, like, the name of that baby? I don't remember now.
I don't think we talked about the name of it. I mean, the name of the baby in the show or the name of the baby in real life?
In real life.
So what's the name of the baby in real life?
That's what I'm looking up now because
Oh.
I feel like this should have come up in that episode where the last one where it was like, oh yeah, she's having the baby.
I thought you might have had a story about the name of the baby or something.
No, although it says that she wasn't in the episode because she'd given birth to she gave birth to their son the night before he was filming like the breakup scene with Lita, and so Alexander Siddig felt that he was not on his game for that scene. He said that he had never been so unfocused. So I guess we can judge when we get there. But yeah, he'd been up, with someone having his baby.
Right. It didn't help that he seems to be like staring into the sun for the whole scene. But
the baby's name is Django El Tahir El Siddig.
Ooh, like Jango Fett?
No, like Django Unchained.
Ah, cool.
The D is silent.
I bet when that movie came out, he was the cool kid. So anyway, yeah, it's Valentine's Day or something on Deep Space Nine. In the Replomat, Morn presents a couple of fake-looking flowers to a Starfleet crew lady. In a moment so weird and random, I'm sure there's some kind of behind-the-scenes explanation, like that's Morn's real-life wife or something.
I'm also looking up Django to see if there's any information about this kid.
I was sure you would have a story about why we have this weird Morn scene at the beginning, but...
No, I don't think. Hold on, let me double check if there's any sort of. He's going on a date. Why you gotta mess with the guy?
Okay, I just.
Let's see. I don't see any notes about Morn in here at all. So They're just like, yeah, haven't had Morn around in a while. We need something to.
Usually when we see Morn, he's like at the bar or something, but.
I like how in the list of uncredited co-stars for this episode, Mark Allen Shepard as Morn appears twice.
Oh, wow.
So he was so uncredited that they had to throw in some extra.
Oh, he was Morn and he was Mirror Morn.
Yeah,
there's a whole thing going on with Morn that we didn't know. In one shot it was Morn, in one shot it was Mirror Morn.
Oh wow. There's a YouTube video called Curse from the Prophets, a DS9 fanfic reading with Alexander Siddig and Django L. Siddig.
Ooh.
So this is from 2020, so it's pretty recent. Here's what I guess the two of them look like today. Or, well, 3 years ago.
In 2020. Oh, yeah. I believe that guy's his son.
Yeah.
I don't know why Alexander Siddig looks so, like, bummed out in that thumbnail, but...
You know, it's probably the fanfic that they're reading.
He's been cursed by the prophets, so... Man, why are those prophets cursing people?
Also, much cuter picture of the family together, also online.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I had that castle, or my brother had it or something. It looks very familiar.
If you want to see the pictures that we're talking about, maybe Fletcher will put links to them in the description.
Maybe if I remember. That will happen. Man, the 90s. Okay.
That's, yeah. So true.
Anyway, sitting at a table, having coffee with Odo, Sisko watches the scene with Morn, equally as confused as I am, but his attention is quickly grabbed by Odo, who brings up the news of the O'Briens announcing the name for their upcoming baby that Kira is carrying, which is not Django. It is Sean.
I mean, Django would have been interesting.
The Bajoran word for swamp.
I feel like Odo has become gossipy since becoming a solid, because I feel like this is the kind of thing he would not have cared about before. But it's just him and Sisko chilling out. Hey, you hear about that baby? Oh, no. Well, yeah, they're going to call him Sean. Oh, well, that's nice. Yeah, except that means swamp in Bajoran. Somebody should probably tell him.
Picking up those bad solid habits.
Yeah, it feels like almost like a Kevin Smith scene to me, which is two people sitting there chatting back and forth, like not really that invested in their conversation. Is just like
they're about to start talking about like the contractors on the Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I wonder if anyone ever does talk to the O'Briens. We never find out, as far as I know.
I mean, who cares? Like, swamp isn't even that bad of a word, so...
Everybody's name means something, except for the ones who don't. Yeah. So
they're not going to be living on Bajor forever, so... Yeah, Sisko and Odo are joined by Dax, who is suffering from post-sex with Worf soreness.
Yep. The common ailment in the future.
Sisko is concerned about the high number of doing-it-related injuries that Dax and Worf have been suffering lately, but Dax is all for it. She's just like, that's just part of it.
Odo once again showing his like nosy gossipiness, where he's like, I believe you've been into the infirmary X number of times. I have been watching on my cameras that are put up in every room.
Again, there's just absolutely no such thing as HIPAA in this universe.
Yep.
Just, you go to the doctor, it's everybody's business, apparently. So Dax says that she and Worf are planning a vacation to Ryza, which I guess she talked him into in lieu of Earth.
It really does make you wonder how exactly she managed that.
Yeah, he wanted to go see the Grand Canyon and the pyramids and stuff, but they're going to go to Ryza instead.
She's like, nah, I've been to Earth plenty of times. I was just last week talking about that one time I was on Earth and I slept with some random med student.
Right. They've both been to Earth. They've both been to the Academy, so...
That's true. I was just going to say, like, finding a planet in the Federation where Dax hasn't slept with someone might be tough.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's been around for like 300 years. So.
Exactly. In 8 lifetimes, you make your way around places. I'm, nothing against it.
Right, yeah. Then Worf comes in and orders a prune juice, of course, and joins them. Worf is looking forward to the vacation, but he says he and Dax will have, quote, much to discuss.
Yeah, he keeps saying that.
because that's why you go to Ryza, to discuss things. For you see, Worf is upset that Dax had lunch with her ex-boyfriend, Transparent Skull Guy.
Yeah, the second, I think it's just the second mention we get of Captain Baudet.
Huh. I could have sworn he's been mentioned more times than that, but...
Oh, here it is. Captain Baudet is mentioned for the second time in this episode, having previously been referred to in the second season episode, The Maquis Part 2.
Okay.
It was revealed in that episode that he and Dax had dinner together several times.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, we may never know exactly how serious this relationship was with Transparent Skull Guy, but it's enough to make Worf jealous.
I feel like almost anything would be enough to make Worf jealous.
Right? Also, he's upset at Dax for airing their personal stuff in front of other people.
I feel like that's kind of justified.
I don't know.
I mean, you could definitely make the argument that she makes where it's like, oh, these guys are my friends. Particularly Cisco, who it's like, I think you may need to accept that Cisco is going to hear everything about your relationship, right, more or less. I don't know that Odo is as close a friend that, like, that's like a share all of our personal garbage with.
Well, Dax, I mean, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, well.
It doesn't matter if Worf's standing there or not.
Get used to it.
Then Bashir and Lita, who are apparently still going out, come by and ask if they can bum a ride to Ryza too.
Yeah, despite the fact that she's been spending lots of hours with Rom teaching him Bajoran mythology or whatever.
And I don't know, the way Rom talks, they're already going out, which I'm very suspicious of this whole breakup ceremony thing. But anyway, Worf allows it, but he's grumpy. He says, okay, as long as you stay out of his and Dax's way for their much to discuss. Cisco sees them off, reminiscing about the times he and Curzon had on Ryza. So
I assume he wasn't there the time Curzon died on Ryza, but...
Right. He tells them to have fun, which puts a look of terror on Worf's face. Oh, and Quark is coming too.
That scene where they get there and Quark's like, hey, what is everybody waiting on? Come on. And Worf's just like, what is going, like, there was serious danger at that moment of either Worf just being like, no, I'm not going on this vacation after all, or Worf like murdering someone. It's kind of a toss up.
Worf continues his trend of not addressing Quark directly and referring to him only as the Ferengi.
Yep.
The Ferengi.
Honestly, I had never noticed that before, and then when that one episode, I read that note about it, and now I can't stop noticing it.
It's just like, even in scenes where it's like just should be dialogue between him and Quark, he's just like, tell the Ferengi. Anyway, on the way there, a chipper Lita plays waitress while Quark complains about the sleeping quarters, and Worf is annoyed and threatens to turn this runabout right around.
Yeah, aren't they like 6 hours away? Why are you taking a nap anyway?
If I ever have kids, I want to plan special road trips that are designed just for them to behave badly on, so that I can prove how serious I am about turning the car around.
You just claim that you're going to what's that place from like the Chevy Chase vacation movie? Moose World or whatever stupid thing it was called. So we're like, yep, we're totally going there, but you never actually buy tickets because you know you're not going to make it.
It's like maybe 1 in 10 times we will actually go to Disneyland. Anyway, Quark brought everybody those Ryzen statue things so that they can all get some Jamaharan.
Except for Worf. No statue for you.
Which, based on context, I think Jamaharan is some kind of complimentary sandwiches or something.
Yeah, it's really left up to your imagination. In this and the previous episode where that came up, where as you may recall, on Captain's Holiday, also written by Ira Stephen Bear, Picard gets tricked by Riker into like getting a Horgon, and then people are like, hey, do you want some Jamaharan, right? He's like, no, I want to read my book.
You can eat your Jamaharan while you read the book.
So, yeah, I mean, who knows? See, this is, we'll get into the foundation of this episode and part of what makes it problematic here in that, so the story for the episode originated in a discussion about Eugene O'Neill's 1947 play, A Moon for the Misbegotten, which I love that. Who is sitting around discussing Eugene O'Neill's 1947 play, A Moon for the Misbegotten? And so the main theme of the play is the destructiveness of alcohol and sexuality, and the lives of several characters end in tragedy due to their pursuit of drink and sexual satisfaction.
Okay, so this is a very anti-Ryza play.
And so, at the time that it was first written and performed, it was extremely controversial because of its frank depiction of these things. And so the writer's like, okay, we want like that kind of controversy around an episode. And so Ira Stephen Bear says, the idea was to do a show that would rattle the audience, that would show sexuality and push the envelope about Ryza. Once you get past the titillation, is this a lifestyle that people in the 20th century can approve of?
Okay,
And
so
there's the basis for what they go into this episode trying to do.
Okay, so they were trying to make controversy.
Yep.
And Ira Stephen Bear's vision for the episode was that it would be basically that the essentialists are correct.
I don't know that it's like correct or incorrect as much as like, look at how different this is, and like, can you really approve of this? And then, start the discussion between the two sides.
Anyway, so everybody except Worf changes into their 24th century tropical wear. And they beam down to Ryza. Lita and Bashir, hands all over each other, go off to do something.
Jamaharan, maybe? Who knows?
Yeah. Quark dual wields some statues and gets escorted away for a double helping of Jamaharan.
2 sandwiches. It's almost the Joey special.
It's like, oh, you want the double Jamaharan? 2
It's like
pizzas?
when you go to Subway and order double meat, and then they
Exactly.
they put it in the oven for the same amount of time as the single meat, so it's too cold.
Aw. They gave me double cheese for free the other day.
Sweet.
It astounds me how often I walk into a Subway and the person making my sandwich, not only is it their first day, apparently, but they have never heard of the concept of a sandwich before.
Wait, there's bread on the top and the bottom? I don't know what to do here.
The things I have seen the people at Subway do just boggle my mind. But
I don't think that I've had that experience.
one time I was getting a sandwich with 3 meats, and they literally put the meats one after another on the sandwich. Like there was a section with roast beef, a section with ham, and a section with turkey.
Huh. They thought you were splitting it with 2 other people.
Who wanted completely different sandwiches.
Wanted individual sandwiches, right.
So yeah, Dax and Worf get left alone. Worf is not getting into the spirit of things until Dax takes off her little wrap or whatever and reveals her spotted legs.
Apparently, if you look closely, you can see that Dax's swimsuit has a Speedo logo on the right hip. And
nice.
This says, it could be that Speedo is still making swimwear in the 24th century.
True. We don't know. What is the future of the Speedo company?
Somebody's paid a lot of money for the Federation replicators when you ask for a swimsuit to like put that logo on there.
Yeah.
It's like Quark. It's a much subtler form of what Quark did in that previous episode.
Yeah, it's like the Starfleet replicators have a brand deal with Speedo, so
exactly.
But yeah, Worf finds the spotted legs more beautiful than a protostar cluster. So, wow. But they are interrupted by Dax's old friend, Arandis, who is the chief facilitator for the entire Temtibi Lagoon.
Yeah. I mean, can't beat that.
Also, she killed Curzon with Jamaharan.
It happens.
So that time in the pilot when we saw Curzon die, she was actually there with Jamaharan. We just didn't notice her.
Well, she was busy making the sandwich.
Right. Yeah, I guess right after they took the symbiote out of him, he ate the sandwich and then died.
So apparently they'd already cast a South African actress named Sue-Ann Braun for the role of Arandis. Uh-huh. And then Vanessa Williams, who plays Arandis in the episode, was like, hey, I want to be in an episode. And they're like, oh, okay, would you be willing to like do this role the way that it's written? And she's like, yeah, no, totally.
Huh.
And so they're like, okay. And the other lady shows up for her wardrobe fitting, and they're like, oh yeah, you're out.
You'd think they'd want to like write an original part for her or something, but
yeah, I don't know.
Or at least a part that wasn't already cast.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know what it is. If it was like this was the time that she could do it and she wanted to be on and they could use her popularity at the time. I don't know. But it's like, I guess there's some controversy about it because Ronald D. Moore is quoted in here being like, the role was there before Vanessa. We had the role already written and the show's in pre-production when suddenly we learned of her interest in the show and her willingness to do the part as it was written. So it also makes it sound like they were like, oh man, is she going to object to like what's up with this character?
It's like we were going to have her be like a super villain or something, but we were like, oh yeah, she probably wouldn't like that. Let's make her the chief facilitator of the Tim.
Yeah.
I wrote down Tim Tibby. That can't be right.
She the thing is, Vanessa Williams came in and she was like, okay, well, this is a great character. I love everything about it. But could she be like the chief of something instead of just the facilitator? Maybe we, throw chief in there. Apparently it is the Tem Tibby Lagoon, Temtibi.
Okay. She wasn't like, can I be the president of Ryza?
I mean, maybe that's what that is. We don't know what the chief facilitator for the Tem Tibby Lagoon does.
Who knows? Anyway, when Arandis leaves, Worf is upset to have yet another Dax X lurking around, which, as we mentioned, there's too many, man. Just don't worry about it. Like,
I mean, this one feels a little bit of a stretch to me. I mean, I get it. Arandis, she's hot. She's been with Dax before, but like, she was with old man Dax. The fact that you're like, oh man, I'm jealous of her talking to like young woman Dax seems like a bit of a stretch, but whatever.
And I guess that rule about you can't hang out with your exes doesn't apply in this situation.
It's hard to facilitate with, they're not both Trill, for one thing. Sure. So there's that, but...
They weren't married, so...
Well, it's also, it doesn't seem like they're pursuing a romantic relationship.
Sure. Anyway, it was during this, the 12th or so straight scene of relationship bickering, that I begin to wonder if some Star Trek stuff is ever going to happen. The answer is no.
Well, no, because it's an examination of the morals and sexuality of the 24th century.
That's what we all come to Star Trek for.
All of the relationship drama is the Star Trek stuff because it's 24th century relationship drama.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Worf is jealous. Dax doesn't like being controlled. To demonstrate her independence, she goes off to drink some Icoberry juice. Itchy spots be damned.
I do love that whole discussion where she's like, you can't control me. I'm going to go drink Icoberry juice. And he's like, that's a bad idea. Your spots itch. She's like, I'm going to do it anyway. What you going to do about it? And he's like, fine. Go drink your stupid Icoberry juice and be itchy. I don't care.
It's not going to make me itch. Go ahead. While she does that, Worf goes up to their hotel room and tries to work up the courage to put on his golden Speedo.
Yeah, I was unclear on what was going on here, where it was like, I mean, did you pack that swimsuit? He seemed surprised by the swimsuit. So did Dax pack you the swimsuit, or are you just now having second thoughts about the swimsuit you chose? And presumably there's a replicator where you could get a different kind of swimsuit if you want.
I read it as, it's like, this has been an ongoing thing where I think maybe Dax got that swimsuit for him, and then he's like, okay, I'll wear the swimsuit, and he's just really trying to like work up the desire to wear the swimsuit.
Instead, he spends the entire episode in his uniform.
Right. But those uniforms are designed for comfort. So.
Yeah. No matter what the climate.
But you can't see his hot Klingon bod in the uniform is the problem.
Probably for the best. Who knows if they have prosthetics for like Speedo Klingon.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was like, we're never going to see Worf in that swimsuit, because then they would have to like show us Klingon like body stuff. So it's not like you can just like paint spots on his legs.
Nope, not quite. I mean, you could. It just wouldn't look good.
Right.
Yeah, it turns out that Klingons look just like regular humans from the neck down. Maybe there's some spots. Who knows?
Yeah. But Worf is interrupted by a guy who rings the doorbell and just strolls right in, named Pascal Fullerton.
Who apparently just got the news that Worf was here and came right over.
Yeah. Just come right on into Worf's hotel room. But this guy he's eager to throw in his hat and join the ranks of the all-time great Star Trek villains. In somebody's mind, I think. What's his deal? He thinks the Federation has strayed too far from its morals and traditions, and something. He invites Worf to a rally he and his group are holding on Risa, which they don't like and want to shut down. Worf is intrigued.
I love shutting down fun.
Right. So you're right. People having fun is bad. Meanwhile, Lita, wearing nothing but a robe, gets a no-touch massage from a guy in a tight see-through mesh tank top. And also we get a crazy Quentin Tarantino foot shot on Lita, which makes me wonder some stuff about Renee Auberjonois, but...
Well, apparently this is not the first version of this scene.
Oh, okay.
For reference, I will share this picture from the wiki of the first version of the scene. So,
ooh.
Originally, Lita's naked in a bathtub and has her purple mesh companion. And that's actually the image right there comes from the original 30-second promo spot for the episode. So it made it all the way to that point.
Okay.
And so Chase Masterson, who plays Lita, is quoted in here saying, sometimes fans ask why there was a different scenario, including wardrobe, shown in the massage scene. We originally shot the scene on a closed set with very little clothing. And then, and I'll never forget this day, I got called into Rick's office, and he told me, we have to reshoot the massage scene because it's too sexy for Star Trek. I said, wow, thank you. I mean, I'm sorry? And then she says, I'm really glad we redid the scene. It's much more elegantly done than in the original. So apparently that's a deleted scene out there somewhere, maybe on the DVDs. I don't know.
But do we see her feet in the scene?
I'm going to have to pull out my DVDs now and find out if this is in fact on there.
I kind of doubt it, but...
Although I bet the internet has it. Let's see.
The internet. Is this a piece of lost media? Can you go to the lost media subreddit and ask if anybody has this? Anyway, this whatever's going on, it's interrupted when Worf and Dax just stumble on in the middle of one of their arguments. And then Worf sees Lita flirting with mesh shirt guy and is outraged that that's not Dr. Bashir in that tight purple mesh tank top. Dax says, mind your own business. Let's go ride some paddle boats or something. But Worf doesn't want to go because he wants to go to the Prude rally.
Yep. I'm not here for the paddle boats. I'm here for the political rally.
Dax is surprised that the rally is so well attended, but I have a feeling none of them knew there was going to be a rally here today.
He just went to a place where he knew they were going to be. Like, this is where the swimsuit contest is being judged. And he just stood up and started talking.
Among the crowd is Dr. Bashir, who is in a hammock with a woman who is not Lita. Dax is sure there's a reasonable explanation, but based on what I know about Dr. Bashir, I don't think it's much use expecting there to be anything deeper to what you're seeing.
Look, they're swingers. It's none of your business. Yeah, as Dax points out, like, hey, this is not our business in any way. And Worf's like, not only do I want to have a traditional Klingon relationship, I think everyone should have a traditional Klingon relationship.
They are joined at the rally by Orandus, who is like, hey, this is a pleasure planet. If Fullerton's idea of a good time is giving boring speeches to people, then more power to him.
I do like that attitude, where it's just like, hey, if he's having fun, let him go for it.
I feel, as the chief facilitator, I'm perfectly happy to facilitate this.
So this scene is an example of some of the numerous problems they had in filming this episode. In the scene in particular, Renee Auberjonois picked out this bank for the extras to stand on for this speech. It's like, here, go stand over there. Uh-huh. It turns out that when they get there, it's covered with burrs that make standing still exceptionally difficult.
Huh.
And so it took much longer to shoot than you might have expected.
burrs, like grass burrs or something?
It says tack burrs specifically, and that's even clickable here. So let's see what a tack burr is. Tribulus terrestris. Yeah, I mean it's a flowering plant that has burrs.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah, very annoying.
This problem couldn't be solved with shoes or something?
No, I guess not. I mean,
but anyway, give his boring speech, Fullerton does. Bashir, who just 3 episodes ago heroically risked his life to restore power to a frontline field hospital, does not find himself resonating with Fullerton's message of, if you ever take one single moment to actually enjoy your life, then you are a bad and weak person and deserve to be invaded by aliens. But Worf is into it. Yep, we're weak. That's why the Klingons attacked, he says, later at a tea house or something. Every single room on Risa looks exactly the same, so it's hard to tell where they ever are.
One set, probably.
Yeah, just like there's these curtains all over the place. It's like, are we in a hotel room, or is this a public space? Where are we? Then Lita and Bashir get all kissy and lovey and talk about what a great idea this trip is, sending Worf into a rage. He begins lecturing them on the dishonor they bring on each other. At this point, you may be wondering how much time is left in the episode. 24 more minutes, not even halfway there. Oh wait, says Julian. Were you confused because we've been sitting on each other's laps and being all kissy and touchy with each other this whole time? No, we're here to break up. It's the Bajoran ritual of separation, which was totally not made up by Lita to get a free vacation before she dumps Bashir for Rom. They leave and go do some getting each other out of their systems sex, and then a bunch of rowdies come in with rifles and start wrecking shit up. Okay, Dax whispers to Worf. On the count of 3. 1, 2... But then Worf interrupts, is like, whoa, I don't know what you're expecting to happen when you get to 3.
No, honestly, look, as soon as it started, I was just like, this is a bad idea for you guys with the guns. Like, these are Starfleet officers, and Worf is a Klingon, and he's not going to stand here and take your shit. And so I'm surprised he even waits for 3. I think that he would just walk up to a guy and, like, yank the gut rifle out of his hand and smack him over the head with it and, start shooting people.
Yeah, some people are lucky they didn't get MacLeod, but...
Yeah, exactly. Like, Worf has no way of knowing. He totally could have pulled a MacLeod out from under his sash and just started chopping arms off. He's done it before.
Yeah. But Worf just wants to see where this is going.
He's like, wait, I want to see where this is going.
So let's just let this terrorist attack play out.
Yeah.
But it all turns out to be a ruse staged by the Essentialists. That night, it's finally time for the talk.
No, hold on. I have to say, pretty sure that's still a pretty serious crime when you come in and start taking people hostage, regardless of if the guns are working or not.
Well, this is addressed when Fullerton is like, well, they don't prosecute on Risa, so
yeah, I could kill all of you and get away with it because this is Risa. It's like forget it, Jake. This is Risa Town.
Just nobody wants to go through the trouble of arresting people on Risa.
All the judges in Risa are on the beaches, so.
Right? It's like, stop taking time out of their leisure time. Anyway, but yeah, they have this talk. It basically goes, you're too fun. Well, you're too serious. Okay, fine. The next day, Dax vents to Arandis about Worf being no fun, but she's still not ready for some extracurricular Jamaharan. Sandwiches.
Yeah, only Worf can make her sandwiches.
Right. Then it's time for Bashir and Lita's separation ceremony, which Quark finds boring, and so do I.
He's like, I wouldn't have agreed if I knew it was going to be all amenable and stuff. Ew.
But Lita is glad to be free to explore her feelings for Rom. Quark and Bashir are perplexed, and Quark gives Bashir the Jamaharan statue. As if Bashir wasn't going around having Jamaharan all over the place anyway.
You're not wrong. But I mean, yeah, when you get told that you're being left because Rom is so sexy, it's like, oh man, that stings, I have to say.
I'm pretty sure that what happened is that Lita and Rom are already together.
Yep.
And that Bashir wasn't clued in on this And then Lita cleverly spun this to get a free vacation.
She's like, Rom, I'm going to go out of town for a while. Don't worry about anything you might hear from your brother. It's all good.
Uh-huh.
And Rom's just like, okay.
It's like, I'll be here when you get back.
Hey, she's a Dabo girl, okay? It requires lots of skill, and she demonstrated earlier.
Right. I was just saying, I would have invited Rom to this whole thing, but...
Yeah, it's like, hey, Julian, I was thinking for our last, hurrah together, what if, just to mix things up, we brought Rom along?
I want to exercise the Bajoran ritual of the transition threesome. So Worf looks for Dax and finds her engaging in sensual sculpting with Arandis.
Not sculpting.
He breaks a Horgon and goes to Essentialist HQ, which, again, is just one of these curtained rooms that's everywhere, to pitch his plan to destroy Ryza, or make people leave or something. And we see that plan in action when Dax and friends are hanging out eating grapes and bad-mouthing Worf, and then it starts raining. And it's not supposed to rain today.
It's not supposed to rain at all, I feel like, here, which I don't know how that works exactly, but...
Yeah, well, she said something that's like, it's not scheduled to rain today, is it? Or something like that. So I
thought she said, it's not supposed to rain here, is it?
Maybe. Everybody goes indoors where Worf and the Essentialists announce, "It was us! Wahahaha! Stop having fun!" All the guests are miserable. Quark gives us a little Ferengi linguistics lesson on all the many kinds of rain. Arandis immediately starts to abandon her convictions and wonder if maybe Fullerton is right.
I have to go back for 1 second. I do find it interesting that when they intentionally want us to know alien words, the universal translator does not translate them.
Right.
So that conversation would have been much funnier if we were hearing it's like, Ferengi have 20 words for rain. Right now it's raining out there. In a minute it's going to start raining.
But there's there's an AI built into the translator that picks up from context or something. I don't know. I mean, presumably Quark is speaking Ferengi.
Right.
And so, from his point of view, what's he saying? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. He's explaining to everyone else who he knows doesn't speak Ferengi that he's like, yeah, in the language I'm speaking, this is called X versus Y.
So I guess there's
they probably have a generic rain word.
A generic umbrella term for rain.
Yeah.
And, okay.
I mean, you could say we have the same thing with precipitation.
Sure. So we cut to apparently 3 days later. The Essentialists are quite pleased with their victory of being huge dicks.
Ruining everyone's vacation.
Yep. Worf is like, well, my work here is done, and leaves.
I mean, it is a bold move to go to the vacation spot and talk about, how horrible people are for always doing X, Y, and Z, where it's like, I mean, if you went to any other planet, they wouldn't always be doing that. But it's like,
right.
You went to Six Flags, and then we're talking about how people never do anything except ride roller coasters.
Right.
Well, yeah.
I think you may have spotted a huge logical flaw in Fullerton's worldview. The fact, I had a professor who called this, the Tetris effect. He was like, well, there's all kinds of horrible, there's starvation and stuff going on in the world. And if you play Tetris even one time, it means you don't care about any of that.
Yep. That's why I never play Tetris. Only, I don't know. I was going to say Grand Theft Auto. And then I'm like, oh, I don't play Grand Theft Auto. Just because Grand Theft Auto just sounds bad. You go and you go to the prostitute and then you kill them and get the money back or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, might as well.
Okay, so the quote she says, I had to pull it up. I thought it wasn't supposed to rain in this part of Ryza.
Oh, okay.
So you could take that either way, as if it doesn't rain in general, or today there was no rain scheduled for this section.
So maybe it rains in a different part and the moisture from there comes over. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Fullerton worries their stunt will soon be forgotten.
Oh, yeah, because the people currently on vacation are going to leave, and new vacationers are going to show up. Like,
they're going to go back to their like productive jobs, and like they're bravely defending him from the actual alien threats.
Yeah,
and other people will come. Yeah. Anyway, so he takes the hacking gizmo to go do more asshole stuff. Dax finds Worf in their hotel room, or whatever this room is, and calls Worf out on this all being all about his mistrust of her. And then she plays the "I've spent more time living among Klingons than you have" card. I mean, they're assholes, but in a fun way.
They can have fun also.
You're an asshole in a not fun way. But then Worf drops a story of when he was a kid, and he killed a human boy in a soccer accident. That taught him he has to practice restraint, or else someone he cares about might get hurt.
Which, I don't know. What do you think about this story?
I mean, I struggle to really find the connective tissue between this story and what Worf is doing, but it's a crazy out of nowhere story, for one thing.
Yeah.
Like,
it rings kind of hollow for me, because I'm just like, I don't feel like this characteristic that we're giving him has been part of Worf's story all along.
Right.
Like, early Worf was not, I mean, we've never seen him as a party guy exactly, but he never seemed like all buttoned up and like unwilling to cut loose at any time to me, until Dax is suddenly accusing him of this, and he's like, yes, that is exactly how I am. And here is like kind of a trite reason that it's like, this one event changed the course of my entire life. And to this day, like decades later, when I know that, the actions of a child I can't really be blamed for, I still like cling to this lesson that I learned.
Yeah. And well, it's like, he's telling, first of all, he doesn't have to be a Klingon for this story. Like, this exact same thing happens all the time. And it happens because either just because it's a horrible freak accident, or because, I mean, you shouldn't be like super reckless and violent when you're playing like kid sports.
Yep.
I mean, what's called for here is a time where he was like having fun, going out swimming or something, and then like that's when the Romulans attacked and killed his family. Like some story that actually illustrates why he has this worldview.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like when I went out in my Speedo, then that's when my whole family was murdered. And I realized I must always be on my guard, or else that could happen again. I don't know.
It's just the hatred of all vacations. It just seems so strange to me. Although, I mean, you go back to Next Generation, I don't know that we ever saw him take fun vacation. He took like vacation to a Klingon monastery to like discover the heir, or the reborn Kahless. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, Dax is just like, oh geez, well that's a terrible story. But you gotta remember there are some things you can't control. Like me.
I'm not gonna do anything that you tell me to do, ever.
And then everything starts shaking. Fullerton has somehow used Worf's hack into the weather system to cause a planet-wide earthquake that I think it's implied will destroy the entire planet. Or at least all the buildings on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's hacked into the system, which we establish at the beginning, not only controls the weather, but also the plate tectonics. Like, they specifically mention, like, yeah, this place is these tectonic whatchamacallits and blah, blah, blah. So, that makes sense to me that he can also do that. But, yeah, it's just like, it's shaking, and then when we cut back to that, the guy's like, hey, maybe we should stop now. No, turn up the juice. And the guy, but then there won't be a single building left standing in this part of Ryza. So apparently it's like, there's this jump from like level 7 to level 8, where it's like, level 7 is just shaking a bit, but you click that up one more notch and all the buildings are down.
Yep. Makes sense. I don't know. Okay, so anyway, Worf and Dax storm into Essentialist HQ and are like, all right, no, give me that thing. And then Fullerton is like, what happened, man? I thought you were cool. By which I mean a huge dick.
What happened to you, man? You used to be beautiful.
And Worf is like, yeah, I was just working through some personal stuff, apparently related to a childhood soccer accident. I now no longer care what you're doing.
Well, but also there's a difference between making it rain for a few days and massive property destruction and probably mass casualties.
Nah. Then Fullerton tries the very much ill-advised move of punching Worf, which ends exactly how you might expect.
I mean, famously on The Next Generation, Worf is used specifically so that people can punch him to prove how badass they are. So maybe Fullerton thought he was in that class, but no, we're in Deep Space Nine now.
He is not the S-tier villain he believes he is.
He's so not.
Soon it's time to leave Risa, and Worf asks Arandis, "Oh hey, you're not mad about all the hacking and the trying to destroy your planet, are you?" And she's like, "No, it's all good."
Yeah, I seriously thought she'd been like, "Yeah, if you could just not come back, we'd all appreciate it."
That's not the Risa way.
Yeah.
Then Worf and Dax go skinny dipping while the sun's set. The end.
I like the final note in here is that this episode has a super large plot hole. Probably because a lot of it had to be redone like last minute. The plot hole is that the reactions of Bashir and Dax to Worf's unauthorized tampering with Rise's weather control systems for a political extremist group and the resulting fallout with Starfleet, or lack thereof, as no disciplinary action is ever brought against Worf for said tampering, despite hundreds of thousands of people having been victims and at least one member of the Risian staff knowing of Worf's involvement.
I mean, yeah, he straight up committed terrorism.
Yeah, he 100% like committed. I mean, he hacked it. He could maybe call it cyber terrorism, except that it, yeah, he did some really messed up stuff. That whether or not the Risians want to prosecute him should not be allowed for a Starfleet officer.
Right. Just nobody told Sisko. It's like, let's not bring this up when we get back.
Worf clearly didn't even have any second thoughts about it, really. Even after like his change of heart, he's just like, well, whatever. I mean, I made it rain for a while. Screw you guys.
Yep. Yeah, this is. I mean, he committed massive computer system invasion or whatever,
and then just handed over what we now know was potentially a super deadly tool to these political extremists.
Yeah, and we never saw him be like, okay, this also technically has access to the plate tectonics, but just don't touch that, okay? Because we're making just like a political statement, right?
He just was immediately trusting this group. So they're like, oh, they're wanting to defend the Federation. These are the good guys. They showed up at my hotel room 5 minutes after I got here, so clearly they're on top of things.
Yep.
So yes, let's see. Other things that went wrong okay. So apparently Terry Farrell has like a skin condition that she can't be in direct sunlight for very long. Which to me brings in the question of why would you write an episode where she's on the beach for most of the episode? But that's none of my business, I guess. But 4 episodes where she had to be in the sun, they had to have like a shelter nearby that after a take she could go and like get out of the sun for a bit. They forgot to do that this time. And so like Renee Auberjonois was like, yeah, the producers didn't organize it. So I had to go and personally hunt down like a shelter we could set up, and that put us way behind schedule. And yeah, so apparently there's a later episode that takes place like largely outside, and I guess I won't spoil it by specifying which one, but her skin condition was such that with this shoot, they're like, yeah, there's no way for us to like have you outside. So they just injure her character and put her in a cave for the whole episode so that she's still there while everyone else is outside.
Nice.
Okay, so then there's a lot about, there's one good bit of Terry Farrell talking about Vanessa Williams saying she was a very good guest star. She's the tiniest human being in the world. We had 2 days out on the beach in Malibu, which was great. We don't do that very often on Deep Space Nine. We had incredibly long shooting days. I had a 20-hour day and a 17-hour day and a 15-hour day. I was crying at one point because they told me we were going to work that 20-hour day, and I had to be on set for the first scene of the next episode the next day. I was crying, and one of our guys went to get me a tissue, and he couldn't find me one, so he brought me a towel. It was so funny that I just ended up laughing.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, I guess so. Now I want to see how tall Vanessa Williams is.
I mean, you can cry into a towel.
Sure, why not? She's 5'6".
Huh.
So, as someone 5'7", I am slightly offended by that being termed the tiniest person in the world.
Well, I mean, based on these 2 data points, it sounds plausible.
How tall is Terry Farrell, actually? She is 6 foot even.
Oh, wow.
All right. So, basically, this show, not popular with anybody. If you go out to IMDb, it is the lowest rated show of this season.
Uh-huh.
And looking at the notes, Ira Stephen Bear explains it as, like, he says that if there was one episode of the whole series he could go back and try to fix, it's this one. He says, it was supposed to be a show that looked at 24th century morals and sexuality. We pretty much failed on both counts.
Yeah, I mean, what was he trying to say about them? Or I didn't get a sense that 24th century morals are substantially different from 21st century morals.
Maybe they were supposed to be. Okay. So Wolf and Bear both are together have said that the main reason that the episode fails is because of the restrictions placed on them about how much sexuality could be shown.
Mm.
This was supposed to be an episode examining sex, but it wasn't allowed to show any sex. Wolf says, kids watch this show, and in some markets it airs at 5 o'clock. That means we couldn't show skin, so there's no sex. It became a totally asexual show, and once that happened, the whole thing got flushed down the toilet because none of it made sense anymore.
Well, like who were we supposed to see having sex?
Interesting point. Maybe Dax and Arandis were really going to be hooking up. I don't know.
Okay, that would have been interesting.
Okay, here's an interesting Bear quote. Well, the one we never should have done, and the one that Robert Wolf kept on saying, even as we were doing it, let's pull the plug on this one, it's not going to work, was let he who is without sin. Because by the very nature of the show, and I gotta say, Rick Berman, I don't want to put it all on Rick, but there was no way we were going to do a really sexy show about Ryza. It had to be really sexy, and there had to be a real sense of things being done and people leaving lives and experiencing pleasures. There was no way. You couldn't even have sexy bathing suits, really. So why the hell are we doing this dumb show about someone who's upset about Ryza when Ryza seems so unassuming and tame?
Right.
I mean, as we're writing it, Robert said, we should dump it. I just didn't have the guts to dump it. I wish we had dumped it. It's a totally valid episode, but just not for the time.
Also, I made Robert Hewitt Wolf take first billing in the writer credit, even though he was the one trying to dump the show the whole time.
So it's like, I feel like what they're wanting to do here is show, like, you know, some really, for 90s sexual morality, some like really questionable stuff. So they can be like, well, in the 24th century, they're much looser about this kind of thing. They're much less like uptight for the most part. And so, like, how does that make you feel about, like, as a 20th century person? Can you really approve of like the kind of stuff they're doing here? You know, maybe Lita is showing up with Rom and being like, okay, Julian, let's do this. And he's getting into it. I don't know. So, but yeah, it's just like they weren't allowed to make Ryza seem like a sexy place. So you got this guy here being like, this place is too sexy. And
right.
It's like, oh no, there was a scene where Lita was wearing a partially open shirt and a guy in a like see-through tank top was massaging her. The horror.
I can't believe I saw that guy's nipples.
Yep, scarred for the rest of my life.
Was the idea maybe supposed to be we saw people getting so drawn to the pleasure planet that they were like neglecting their responsibilities or something?
That would make the guys moralizing make slightly more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it just comes off as just like Cancun or something.
Yeah.
Like, nobody seems to be doing anything outrageous. And even if they were, so what?
Well, I mean, yeah, like Quark shows up and 1 second later has a lady on either arm and they're going off for Jamaharon, which does seem like maybe a little, depending on, once again, what Jamaharon is. It's like, wow, these ladies are just really, like, that's all it takes, huh? Okay.
I guess I'm supposed to be shocked by that. I don't know.
Right, yeah. I mean, they're obviously into it. Quark's into it. I'm not going to judge.
I don't know.
I wouldn't want to make Quark a sandwich, but that's me, not you guys. So
I would blow his mind with my sandwich.
Let's see. Ronald D. Moore says, it's a show we all wish we had a second crack at. And Renee Aberzonois says, it was not my happiest time as a director. So no one is having a great time. Ron Moore is in here again. It was supposed to be a fun romp of an episode, but that just didn't come through for whatever reason. I still don't think it's a bad idea, but it could have been a really cool, fun episode. It was a great idea to go to Risa with Worf and Dax. It just didn't come together.
I mean, that's one of the notes I have is I would love to see just like a vacation road trip episode, but like a good one.
Like Dax and Worf agree to like each do something they want to do, and the other will like be totally on board with it. And so Worf has he wants to go to the Grand Canyon and the pyramids, and Dax is like, oh my gosh, okay, fine. And then she turns around and makes him go to Risa, and it's like, nah, I did your boring thing, and I didn't complain. And Worf's now honor bound to do the same and like try to get into it so she can enjoy it because she did it for him. I could, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I want to see Worf on those paddle boats. Like, just be like, or floaters, which I guess can also fly, because I think at one point they say the floaters can like fly up into the mountains or something. But yeah,
I mean, they float. Why can't they float really high?
Yeah, they like they're like paddle boats that you can like fly off into the mountains. I don't know.
So in my mind, Worf like grew up in Russia on Earth because that's where his parents show up from in that one episode, I think. But apparently, back in the episode of the Next Generation episode of Heart of Glory, we do find out that he grew up on Galt, which is mentioned again here. I just apparently completely forgot that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's hard to keep track of Worf's whole backstory. There's always a new story, like of him, like the time he ran away to Kronos and met the ghost of Kahless and all that stuff.
Yep. That was a good one when the ghost of Kahless showed up and told him some stuff. And then Core? Yeah. He's just like, oh yeah, I'm sure Kahless told you're so full of shit. Yeah, okay. It's great. Last note in here is Bashir says to Worf, when in Rome, which is the second time a character has said that to Worf. The first time being in the Next Generation episode Justice, which you may remember being a not great season 1 episode, where Riker says the same thing when they're visiting Rubicon 3, also a paradise-like planet with loose sexual morals. That's one where Wesley gets arrested and is going to be put to death.
The one where Wesley stepped on the grass or whatever.
Yep.
The one where is it really a paradise if every offense is punishable by death, though?
That's how you keep it a paradise. Anyone who offends dies, and so no one will offend.
Oh, okay. So it got said to Worf 2 times. Interesting fact, Memory Alpha.
That's the kind of thing you get on this show.
This is Worf's arc that one day he will learn that when in Rome.
One of these days.
Yeah. It's like, it took me a long time to learn this lesson, but I've decided that when in Rome. But nobody ever told me the rest of that saying. So
right, yeah, nobody ever finishes it, so I'm not sure what it means.
Anyway, what do you think of this episode? Okay. I talked about the ellipsis. So yeah, okay. Yeah, what do you think about this episode? Let he who is without sin ellipsis.
So look, there's a lot of stuff wrong with the episode. We've talked about that in depth. I don't hate it as much as apparently everyone who worked on it hates it. I don't even know that I'd go so far as to say I dislike it. This is a really on the line one for me because none of it, except with the possible exception of Worf just committing super obvious crimes and getting away with it and not seeming to feel bad in the least for it. None of the bad stuff is just so bad that I'm like, oh, them in that episode. I'm just like, it's that episode. It doesn't have anything that's like makes me not want to rewatch it like some episodes do. It even has some fun, amusing moments. Like it's hard to pass up on Lita telling Bashir that she's dumping him for Rom, essentially, which is just like, man, that's really fun. Poor Bashir, he has it coming after all the womanizing that he's accustomed to. I'm trying to decide if we've seen him like hitting on any other woman since he started going out with Lita.
I'm certain we must have. We saw him hitting on that doctor on the...
yeah. We just know so little of their relationship. That, I mean, we can assume it started on that one episode where she comes on to him at the bar, but we don't actually know that.
There have been several times in the show when I've been like, oh, they're still together? Like, when I thought it was all over. Yeah. And then they re-mentioned that they're going out. And I was like, oh, wait, we're still doing that?
And I think that it was a good idea to address just how fundamentally different Worf and Dax are if you're going to put them in a relationship. Because up till now, we've just had what is essentially her flirting with and chasing him and him being too stupid to recognize. And so now that you're like, okay, we're going to have them together. We want you to be invested in this relationship between the two of them. Doing sooner than later this discussion of like, is this really going to work? Because they are very different people. I think was a good idea. I don't know that it gets resolved in the most reasonable way. But at least we see, like, they bring up the topic and they deal with it. And it seems like we've come to some sort of equilibrium on it. I still think Worf is going to be jealous if she has dinner with Captain Baudet again. Mm-hmm. And apparently she's just going to be like, well, deal with it. Like, take me or leave me. I'm not going to change for you. So, I think that's a good idea. It's interesting to actually finally address Lita and Bashir directly, even if it's as their relationship ends. Quark gets a couple funny things. There's a few positives to outweigh the mountain of negatives. And like I said, none of it is so big that I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to watch that episode. So for me, this is so on the line that I'm just like, does it go above the line? Does it go below the line? I don't think that it's good enough to justify above the line. Like, I don't feel like I can argue it above the line, but so I'm going to put it just below the line. That's my rating. But it's just like so barely below the line that I can't even really say I dislike it.
I don't know. For me, it is very, very, very far below the line. Like, okay. It's tedious. The few moments of humor are just, they don't make up for anything. It's just bafflingly poorly conceived. It's like, why is Worf... Apparently Worf will just straight up join the Taliban if he gets the chance. Yeah. And he's in the wrong mood. Like... I'm not quite sure what lesson I'm supposed to learn from the episode. Apparently I was supposed to be shocked by the loose morals of the 24th century and kind of see the point of Fullerton. I thought, like, the Essentialists were supposed to be straight up the bad guys, but maybe not.
I mean, when they start, like, earthquaking, I guess we're supposed to agree with Worf at that point to be like, oh, well, now they're the bad guys.
I mean, obviously you shouldn't like people enjoying themselves, but when you start bringing in the earthquakes, that's, I don't know. Like, I don't know what lessons these, like, Worf and Dax were supposed to get out of this whole thing about their relationship. Like, they kind of, I felt like it was kind of fudged, that it was like, well, just I am a fun, free spirit, and you have to accept that. And it's like, okay, I will accept that. I was like, that's what we got out of this whole thing. Yeah, so it's like if I gave the one where Worf's brother wanted to get ritually sacrificed or whatever, a lieutenant junior grade, then I gotta give this, and that one at least had, Tony Todd and some fun stuff in it.
That's true. Tony Todd is worth a lot.
I can't in good conscience let this be as good as that episode. So
that's fair.
I gotta give it an ensign. It's just like, is it like storyteller bad? I mean, it might be.
I like how it sounds like. You're like, well, it's not that. Oh, hold on. No, it might be.
I mean, it's bad for very different reasons. Like, Storyteller was just like bad, like so stupid.
It's so stupid. Yep. Okay.
This is just like I don't know what they're even trying to accomplish. I'm angry. Is this even? Am I even being told a story? I feel like at some points, I don't know. Yes, I feel like I agree with Robert Hewitt Wolf. This was not a good idea of an episode.
That's totally fair. Sorry, now you got me thinking about the Storyteller. But look, I have to say, if IMDb is correct, and we've disagreed with IMDb at times on their ratings of these episodes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If this is the low point of the season, then that's good. We may be in good hands this season.
Hopefully.
Like this one gets a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb, and I think the next lowest is like 6.6. So
okay.
It's a decent way below any other episode.
But what do we feel about the title of the episode? Let he who was without sin.
You know what? I think for the episode that they wanted to do, that title would actually maybe work well. We're still not sure exactly what they were wanting to do.
Right.
But clearly it was going to be about like, Risa has all this like promiscuous stuff going on and Worf does not approve. And so Worf has to maybe look inside and learn some lessons, or I don't know, whatever. And in that episode, Let He Who Was Out Without Sin probably is a great title, actually. It's definitely memorable. It would be applicable there. It would relate to the episode. I think that in losing what they were trying to do with the episode, we lose some of how applicable the title is, but I'm still okay with it. I think it's a decent title.
I mean, I just don't think anything that happened in this episode is really a sin, except for the stuff Worf did.
Yeah.
So, that's our second Bible quote of the season in a title.
If Dax had if he walked in on Dax actually sleeping with Arandis,
yeah, maybe.
Then you might be looking at a different situation where, but yeah, it's just like, oh no, they were making pottery, so I'm going to become a terrorist.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just that story in the Bible is, I mean, it's about, even if somebody else does something wrong, there's something inherently hypocritical about casting judgment on your fellow man.
Them, yeah.
So, I guess that's maybe the attitude the episode's going for. I don't know.
I mean, Worf really is super judgmental on all these people on Risa, so that's that kind of fits. And stupid speech guy even more so, judgmental to the point of being like, "Yes, I'm going to kill them all."
Right. And Worf, Worf isn't without sin. He killed the soccer kid. So,
including, I guess that guy was going to kill himself because the Bolian guy's like, this is going to knock down all the buildings. We should stop, or at least go outside where we will not also be killed by falling buildings. And this guy's like, no, let's do it.
Right. We have to make a statement. Yeah, Fullerton. I would be abandoning ship pretty quick on Fullerton.
Yeah,
after he did that stuff, I think they could have done better with the title, because, like you said, maybe it fit the original episode better, but like so many titles, it just feels kind of like they spent 5 minutes on it. Ooh, that could be good. If you put a Bible quote, people will think that's deep.
They got to the end of writing this episode and they're like, this needs something to make people think it has depth.
Right. It's like you're sitting there, it's like, oh yeah, let he who is without sin. Yeah, that really makes you think. I didn't do a nitpick of the week this week, though.
The whole episode is your nitpick of the week.
The episode is bad. That's my nitpick. I feel like at that point it stops being a nitpick, though. It just starts being a...
I like that Memory Alpha has a nitpick of the week for theirs, where it's just like, there's a big plot hole here,
right.
in that Worf gets in no trouble at all.
That is a pretty major plot hole. I don't even know if I'd call that a plot hole. Like, that's like just a fatal flaw with the episode. Usually plot holes. Usually, when I think of plot holes, they're usually of the form, why didn't they just do blank?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hear that, you're like, oh my gosh, you're right. But this one, the whole time, I'm like, Worf did horrible stuff. He needs to go to jail. And then at the end, it's just like his consequences elude him. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to fix... Like, how do you change the writing in the episode to fix that? Because there's no... I mean, like, how do you make Worf not just, like, a terrorist at that point?
Well,
like,
just don't have Worf be the person who does the hacking.
Well, yeah, but then you miss, like, the character... Like, that's the whole thing. Is, like, you're dealing with Worf's character. And if he doesn't do the bad thing, then what's the point?
You need to have the Essentialists do something that's kind of ambiguously bad, and then Worf isn't sure he wants to condemn it. Like, kind of like when they staged that little, like, thing. And he's like, I don't approve of this, but I kind of get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And then, kind of have him... Then they do the earthquake stuff, and he's like, okay, no, never mind.
I guess you could have had them do the hack, and when there's 3 days of rain or whatever, Worf's like, oh no, this is great, actually. And he approves of it without having been a part of it. But I guess that calls... I mean, in the story, I feel like it makes sense, because it's like, oh, well, Worf is a Starfleet officer who has access to stuff and also knows computer systems, so I buy that he is able to hack this, kind of. I don't know that we've ever seen Worf hacking things before, but...
I just got the sense that the Ryza security net is not super secure. Like,
so what you're saying is Fullerton is right.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he should have been, it's like, man, like, even me, like, this old fogey with no computer skills was able to hack into your thing and make it start raining.
What if the Jem'Hadar showed up and tried to earthquake your whole planet into, like, submission?
What if the Jem'Hadar tried to make it rain? You wouldn't like that, would you?
They're gonna throw money at us? No. Literal rain. Oh, okay.
It's like, the Jem'Hadar come down, it's like, where are the strippers that we can make it rain on?
No, apparently the Jem'Hadar aren't interested in that sort of thing we established in the previous episode.
I wonder if, like she said, it's not supposed to rain on this part of the planet. Are there, like, different, like, climate worlds of Ryza?
Maybe some people like the rain.
Different
so
sections of Disneyland or something. Like,
yeah.
Oh, let's go to Rain World.
Let's go to Little Ferenginar.
Yeah. Eat some of those tube grubs. And best tube grubs outside of Ferenginar. All right, well, I think that's the end of the episode.
Yep.
So, yeah. So we thank you for joining us today. If you want to find our past episodes, you can look on wherever you're watching this. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Other stuff, Bean, or whatever the site that I upload the things on is. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye as Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you for our next discussion. But remember, do not stand between me and the itchy echoberry juice.